I mean, I'm wondering whether we're giving this too much. Might come forward a bit. Here we go. Right, Celini, can you hear us okay?
Are you speaking to her?
Well, I'm speaking to her via the live stream, hopefully.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, I told her we're going to do it.
Are they?
If not, well, that's all.
Just checking. Just checking.
There we go. All good, Twitter and YouTube.
Oh, wonderful. That makes a change. Oh, yeah, the leaflets are there if you need them. Good afternoon, Stoke Newington. I feel I'm a bit echoey, Mary. We've got an echo. Shall we just sort it out? So, we are gathered here in this very polite, sunny afternoon, lovely park. And we know that we're going to say some things that are going to be really popular with everyone sitting listening. Because obviously we stand in front of Mary Wollstonecraft in this frankly insulting statue where she's naked. And I don't know that would have been how she would like everyone to remember her, and they walk past and they say, oh look, there's a really tiny naked statue of a woman. Oh, she's the founder of feminism. Amazing. Yeah, am I still echoey, Mary? Hello? Can you see the echo? Okay, right. Oh, that's better. No, it's not really. Let me just... Where's the echo?
Well, there isn't one thing.
There is. Yeah. Let me just have a look, sorry. Let me just... It's...
Oh, it's the second one, yeah.
Second one.
But that's normally like that.
No, there's something. Just don't want... Okay, might just be...
1, 2, 1, 2.
Oh, that's better. Okay. So this organisation, this event is called Let Women Speak. And we've been going since about 2018, and the whole purpose of Let Women Speak is for women to speak. It's amazing. It does exactly what it says on the tin. And the reason we started talking is there's a fair few issues that women are just simply not allowed to speak about. That might get her in trouble with her friends who decide that if she's got these views, then she needs to be ousted from the friendship group. It might mean that her work networks, like her women's work network, might decide that she's not allowed to participate in the women's network. It might be that at her children's school, everybody starts ignoring her when she goes to pick up her child. But generally speaking, it's a really authoritarian response to women's voices when it comes to a woman who knows exactly what a woman is, which is quite clearly an adult human female. Do you think we're loud enough, Mary? Are we loud? Sorry. It's the final one on the volume. Okay. So we decided to come to this very polite, affluent part of London because we feel that women here are living in a particular sort of enclave where it's quite difficult for them to have points of view that are not the same as their friends. And we know that when it comes to women's safeguarding, many women are too frightened at all to speak up. So what we say, and we're going to be very mindful that where we are today, there's quite a few children and young families walking around. So some of the words that I would normally use, I'm probably not going to use today. But we would say that no woman has a male body, that no man has a female body, that there is no such thing as non-binary, that we are definitely sexed individuals, every single one of us, and that foisting this opinion and this ideology, transgender ideology, onto the tiny little influential heads and minds and emotions of children is frankly abusive. So you may have read about For Women Scott, and they just had a massive victory that should never have happened in the Supreme Court. And the reason it should never have happened is because the Equality Act has always meant sex means biological sex and woman means adult human female. And all of us knew that. And apparently loads of other organisations and councils and schools and places that have put women and children at risk, they needed reminding that when we say that is a space for women, that actually means, amazing this is, that is a space for just women. What we also talk about here at Let Women Speak is you cannot identify out of your sex. And you can choose really to dress however you want. I'm frankly very judgmental, so if you do, then I will judge you quite poorly. But you can actually lawfully dress however you want. You can think you are whatever you want in your own head. And in the privacy of your own home, you can even call yourself whatever you want. And then when you come out into the wider world, you have to kind of conform somewhat and accept that whatever you think you are doesn't mean that you have a license to go into a woman-only space. And that's something that we've had to keep saying loudly. And young people in particular, and frankly young people, that's because you've been groomed by your schools and online for about the last 15 years. Young people in particular have forgotten what it really means to have single-sex provisions that mean single sex. So in all of the schools, I suspect, I mean, I don't know, but I'm not a betting woman, but I'd stake my house on this, that there are probably less than 50% of the schools, if any, in this area, within like a 20-minute walk, where a little girl of the age of 9 can go into a female-only toilet at school. I would imagine there's gender-neutral, so-called gender-neutral toilets. And if you can hear me, people in this park, let me just say that is unlawful. So, I'll just talk through, especially for the people at home as well, I'll just talk through what a single-sex provision or a unisex provision means in the sense of a toilet. If you can go into that fully lockable enclosed space and it has a sink and somewhere to dry your hands, that is a permitted unisex provision. If it doesn't have that, if you have to share sinks or where you dry your hands, that is not a unisex provision, and that is unlawful in any public building but for children above the age of 8. So if your child is at a school where they're all just so inclusive that they have these, what they call gender neutral, where little boys and little girls go and share the sinks, that is unlawful. And it's your duty as a parent to let them know before the summer, so they've got some time to get it right by September. Or you can take it to the next level, which is actually suing the school, which is something that I'm really looking forward to, that the schools start to get sued. So this is about an HSC directive, and now nobody can be in any doubt that the Equality Act meant single-sex spaces, meaning genuinely single-sex. In a school situation, that means single-sex provisions for all toileting facilities unless they are fully enclosed. So that's one of the things that I think it's really important that every one of us, you don't have to have a child at a school, by the way, to write to a school and ensure that they're upholding the law. You don't have to really even pay your council tax and make sure that your council is upholding the law. But we thought we'd come to this rather affluent, in parts, part of London, because we know that there are a lot of captured, particularly women, there are a lot of captured people who just are happy for women to lose their rights, which is a bit odd, since this is the birth of feminism. Anyway, it's not just Let Kellie-Jay Speak, it's Let Women Speak. So would anyone else like to speak? Come on. I'll just stand here, fingers on lips. Come on. Hello, kids.
Right, all right, okay.
Sorry. If you can say urinate.
I'll use other words.
Yeah, is that all right? Just because there's loads of children, if we want them to come along with us, we
Yeah.
probably can't swear.
Okay.
Nice and close, nice and close. That's it.
So the word I was going to use today, I'm going to tame down. But if we needed an image to explain to the uninitiated, really close.
Yeah, like that, right in.
It's really intimidating. If we needed an image to explain to the uninitiated that the trans rights activism is a blatant men's rights movement, we need look no further than the P protest that took place in response to the Supreme Court's ruling that men are not women. The week after the ruling, these men were protesting with their we because women have said no. And what better way for creepy men to mark out their territorial demands than to urinate in the streets, on people's property, on important landmarks, and in women's private single-sex spaces. Some were holding the sign saying, I, P-I-S-S, where I want. There was even a sign saying, I heart, P-I-S-S-I-N-G, on turfs. This week, we've had the massive unit of a bloke, Robin Moira White, being fawned over on Women's Hour, whilst indicating his intention to continue urinating in the ladies. And his solution for women who don't want men in our spaces, including those with religious needs, is that we have to find additional private spaces. We've already got private spaces. It's called the ladies. It's a women's space, and Robin's not welcome there because he's a man. Whenever I hear the word trans rights, my head translates it to property rights. Trans demands has become a cover for the male takeover of women's stuff. They want our spaces, our sports, and crucially, our words. And now that they've been told they can't have them, we've seen the media wanting women, us, to be sorry for them. I mean, excuse me? It's the women who deserve an apology because it's our stuff they've been taking. No one asked us, and no one thought about our feelings while this was put in place. It's ironic that TRAs are so keen to deny biological reality, yet they seem fit to assert their dominance with their bodily fluids in the toilet, just like other animals in the animal kingdom, aggressively marking their territory. But I guess boys will be boys, because weeing is one of the blokiest ways to protest. Some have threatened a topless march, which if it happens, will have to be called the Men's Moob March. I don't know what these men think they're getting their fake breasts out for, because none of us want to see a bunch of perverted exhibitionists forcing the public to participate in their fetish. It's so clear that this is a men's sexual rights movement, but worse still, it's a men's sexual deviant rights movement. And it's dangerous for society. In the last 2 decades since the GRA, we've seen a male land grab on womanhood, the colonisation of women's spaces, the appropriation of our words by creepy men who are pretending to be something that they're not. Well, the party's over, lads. Womanhood never belonged to you, and we want to take it back.
I'm going to take that applause as if it's genuine from those lads. I'll tell you why. Because teenage boys are really acutely aware about who is female and who is male. I'm very proud to have a relative who's at a school where there is gender-neutral facilities, so-called mixed sex, and it's just for the non-binary children. And we know, look, I know that's nonsense. And so he went into that toilet, and a teacher said, when he came out, he said, well, you're not non-binary. He said, well, when I went in, I was non-binary. And whilst I was in there, I had a quick think, and I've come out, and I really am sure that I'm a boy. And I thought, well, that's kind of a very brilliant, the teenagers have kind of had enough now. And I think a lot of the children at their schools who are claiming to be the opposite sex are really quite irritating and attention seeking. And I think they've all had enough. And so they're beginning to just ignore it, think it's ridiculous. They think their teachers are foolish for going along with it. So that's really, really encouraging. And then they get to university where they really, really are silenced. And they find it very difficult to speak, which might tell you the sort of children that have had enough. They're not necessarily the sort of children that are going and doing gender studies or sociology at university. But I recently had a letter from a doctor. She's training to be a doctor at... Oh. Oh, look at that, a 20-year-old bloke who's got an opinion. Just tell your mum. He's going to go home and tell his mum, and then he's going to get his Wi-Fi privilege taken. Yeah, your mum's a tough. Anyway, but then they get to university, and the universities are really badly captured. And at this Aberdeen, was it Aberdeen where she is? Dundee University. They have a whole section of their syllabus every year that's devoted to women's health, because obviously we have a particularly complicated body with lots of needs that are very different throughout our lives, and they are different to men. Like really, genuinely, we have different bodies and everything. And what used to be, say, an entire semester focused on women's health and women's bodies was shrunk down to about 4 weeks of that semester, where most of the time they were focusing on gender. So they were talking about the spectrum of biological sex and how to use particular language and how to address people at hospitals, as opposed to looking at endometriosis or looking at the recovery after pregnancy or looking at menopause or looking at infertility for women. And so I think it's so much worse, and it's so much more baked in, that unbaking this cake is not just going to be a ruling at the Supreme Court. It's actually going to take every single one of you that knows the truth to be prepared to keep going on and on and on about it to schools, colleges, universities, and your council. And your council is somewhere where you genuinely have quite a lot of access to democracy, but you've got to do it the right way. And we have loads of ideas on Let Women Speak about how you as individuals or in groups can go and do deputations and a variety of different things to make your council talk about this issue. And if nothing else, to make them admit just how knee-deep or neck-deep in this ideology they are. But they will be breaking the law. And so that's certainly something that we want to look at. And when we find they're breaking the law, then we can let their underwriter know, their insurance underwriter for public liability insurance, and we can begin to properly get them financially accountable for the decisions that they're making. Who else would like to speak? And you've got to speak, ladies.
So I was just going to make a quick point. Sorry, it's just a very quick point. My cousin's okay. She's
Okay.
bathing, but my cousin is gay, and
Come this way.
He feels disgusted that they're now categorised with gays and lesbians. They're not the same. Trans are not in that same category. They've come a long way to be accepted, and now they're being put in the same category. That's not right. Sorry.
Yes, thank you. Totally right. And now we've got the sort of, it's been happening for a long time, this social engineering with social media, but also on mainstream television. You now have a woman, it's a terrible thing for gay men, but there's a woman LARPing as a gay man on a popular, I don't know, is it popular? Maybe like 55 people watch. But there's a television program with Danny Minogue, and there's a woman LARPing as a gay man. And I really, really hope that what it does is it wakes up loads of gay men to what women have been looking at for a very long time, which is the parasitical invasion of our spaces and our language. Who else would like to speak? Otherwise, I just have to talk for 2 hours, and that's going to bore everyone to death. Come on. I'm just going to have to talk, aren't I? We could get Bernadette. We could force her to come and speak. Come on. Everyone's shy here. You need to talk for at least 35 minutes. What a lovely warm t-shirt.
I
Really
deliberately
great.
bought it.
I love it.
I wore this is my first one, and I thought it would just show how long we've been going on. Right, so I did think I might say something. I haven't done speech, but I was on the
She's like
train.
someone who just won an award and pretended they didn't think they were going to
Yeah,
win.
let's hope I didn't. We miss my mum.
Here.
Okay, so it's just a
Really
couple
close,
of
Bernadette.
things that I wanted to say, and it's all down, as Kellie-Jay has always said, language. People use language and they mean different things. So I've kind of got a couple of points which are vaguely linked by language. One of the things that I heard on social media was about the fact that this ruling, which I have to say was just really a foghorn for those at the back, because it is actually the law, and that is, oh great, I've lost my bits now. So it was for those at the back, those who willfully or witlessly followed really bad guidance, which we know was not the law. Hence the guidance was illegal, hence what people were doing was illegal. And so that's what the ruling did. It just said this is what the law actually is. So let's hope that the next lot of guidance actually does it properly. So the thing I saw was somebody said about toilets, and that what's going to happen to all these poor young boys who are no longer going to be allowed to go into the toilets with their mums. Well, I have had many children, so I just want those of you who obviously haven't, if you haven't had children, or if you're students, or you're single, whatever, but you haven't experienced children. So I just want to take you through the stages, because words are important. So you have babies. Babies stay with their parents. They get their nappies changed up to about the age of maybe 3, 4 if you're a bit lazy and you haven't bothered to change to get them potty trained. These little ones come to the toilet with you. You put them on your hip, you take them in. Nobody is saying that a 2-year-old boy is going to walk into the boys' men's toilets and you're going to randomly ask some bloke to change their nappy. They come in with you, you are their mother, okay? That is, then they start nursery. Hopefully potty trained at this time, but they're still little ones. Nursery and, so remember this word, nursery and reception age children. These little ones have special toilets in schools. They're tiny, really difficult to sit on because they're little. They also need little boys to go in with their parent, could be a man, could go into the men's, could be their mum, go into the women's. And they normally stand on your feet as they stand there while they wee, because they're so little they can't reach. Or you sit them on your knee. That's what I used to do when they were even littler. They would kind of put your knee, your little one was there, and they would do their wee. These little boys do not go into the men's toilets on their own. They go in with their mum. Again, probably be able to put them on your hip, take them in with you to the toilet. By the time they're in year 3, so we're now talking turning 8. So from turning 8, they will be going to school trips on their own with their teachers. So there'll be a few parents. So they will be going into the toilets on their own. So from 8, 9, and then when they reach key stage 2, and they start secondary school, which is 12, which is what they were talking about in the news, they're going on a bus on their own to school. So yeah, they go into the boys' toilets on their own. And they have rights. These young boys have the right that the men won't attack them. So these young ones, they're young, yeah, but they're 12. They're going on school trips on their own. They might even be going on cub camps on their own, and they will be going on the bus on their own to school. So I think when you go to the shops, when you go to the supermarket, they will be able to go into the toilets on their own. So just wanted to say the ridiculousness of saying that young boys won't be able to go into the toilets. And it's so amazing we finally got some chants going on saying that trans rights are human rights. And just want to say, women's rights are human rights. We are human. We have rights. We have the right, when we are disabled, to have a woman change our intimate area and wash us in the morning and arrive at our house with their own key and come in and get us out of bed. We have that right. Don't you stand there and say a man has a right to do that because he feels like a woman. We have the right when we go to have a smear or have a mammogram, we go into those porta cabins, we go in, we see the woman, we fill out a form, we go into a cubicle, the door shuts behind us, we undress, we go through the other door to the person who's going to do our mammogram. Don't you dare tell us that we should have a man standing there in a dress doing our mammogram for us. If you have ever had a mammogram, they squish you from the side, they squish you from the top, they squish you from below. No, that is not happening. Men are not doing that. Prisons, how dare you not have compassion for women who are in prison so that they can have a female cellmate? You should be ashamed of yourself. If you know anyone who is in a female prison, ask them. I am fed up of people not thinking women are part of society. We are human and we have rights. And the Supreme Court has told us that. And I've ranted enough now. So I will leave it there. Thank you.
Oh, the middle class kids, they do like to shout at older women, don't they? Imagine all those school fees their parents pay just for not to know what a woman is. It's quite scandalous. Can I just say, I'm just looking, it's like, you know when you see those sort of apocalyptic films where there's something weird has happened to people, where they've lost their brains? Like, not quite a zombie, because they're not very exciting. So I don't feel like running, because there's nothing remotely exciting about them. But it's just like, omnicause, I will say something. Omnicause, I will say something. Like, put a bit of effort in. Think of some rhymes. I don't know, something a bit... It's... I'm telling you, like, people at home, you can't see them, but they're literally the most middle class kind of chai latte drinking people you've probably ever seen. They've definitely got cleaners. They probably never had to do chores. Possibly boarding school, maybe not wealthy enough for boarding school, maybe just a very nice house. And whatever happens to them now, whatever they do, mummy and daddy is going to take care of it, right? Maybe just mummy, maybe daddy went off for the secretary quite a few years ago now. Maybe just mummy, maybe daddy's still got some guilt money, I don't know. But I'm looking and they've just gathered and they're just standing in this bizarre, emotionless, like really quite insane. They are what Iran calls the morality police, where they basically go and tell women that they're not allowed freedom of expression or freedom of speech. What they'd be doing in Iran is they'd be bundling those women in to a nice little back of a van to get a severe beating from the police, taken to court for just showing her hair. They don't know that they're those people. They're so stupid, they think they're the good people, and us women using our voices to say things are the bad people. Like, they don't know that they're the authoritarian. They're the people saying, how many fingers, Winston? That's them. And they don't know that at all. They have no idea, which is also hysterically funny, but incredibly dangerous. Because when you've convinced someone that's standing in a park to middle-aged women speaking on a microphone about women's rights, that they occupy the moral high ground, there's precious little that they won't do for their cause. They would dob in their own parents to the police for wrongthink. They are the little red army. They are Mao's red army. They don't know it, but then neither did Mao's red army when they told on their own parents who then were executed. So it's like just as an experience, just to look upon them, they were so angry, although I know their emotions aren't showing because they're very level. So they haven't got any emotions in their own voices because they don't really mean it. What that chant is saying to everybody else in the park, I'm a good person. I'm a really good person. I'm such a great person. That's all they want to do. They don't really want to stop us. They're not going to do anything brave or courageous. They're not going to try and take the microphone. They're not going to come and explain what they mean. They're just going to say meaningless mantras because, quite frankly, that's the extent of what they've got. But it is, I mean, just look at them. I'm going to just do an impression. And can I just say, I'm so committed to this because I've got a really bad shoulder and this actually will hurt. Trans rights are human rights. Trans rights are human rights. Oh, sorry. Trans rights are human rights. Trans rights are human rights. Trans rights, men's rights are trans rights. Trans rights are men's rights. What I believe is that every man should be able to go wherever they want, at any point, and have access to women's bodies whenever they want. Sex work is empowering. Am I there? Do I get it? Hang on, that was too... Look, but can I just say, just look. They're like Stepford wives, aren't they? They're the Stepford wives of the trans activists. It's quite hilarious. You're going to speak? Lovely, thanks. Thank you.
Well,
Coming real close for you.
that was a bit harsh, Kellie-Jay. I mean, I hadn't come here today prepared to speak, but in defence of the people standing there shouting, I think it's really sweet of them. I'm sure that Katie Dolotowski, who molested 2 little girls in supermarket toilets, in the ladies' toilets, I'm sure that Karen White, who molested 4 women in prison, that's who you're here shouting for today. I'm sure the rapist will be delighted with the support you're giving him. On my website at peaktrans.org, there's a crime page. I've got several hundred links to crimes against women, against men, against children that are carried out by trans-identifying men. I'm sure they're all really grateful for the support they're getting today by those morons standing at the back. And as Kellie-Jay said, why don't they find an argument? Why don't they join us? Why don't they ever argue from a rational point of view? Because they
Come and speak, Maria.
come and speak. Come and speak, rapist supporters. We want to hear your point of view. In a few days' time, I'm going to be bringing out a video, and I'm thinking of calling it the trans activists' dumbest arguments ever. Because since the Supreme Court ruling, there's one argument that I've heard more than any other. Apparently what's going to happen is now we're going to have what they call cis men, also known as men, are going to come into our spaces and they're going to assault us. And when we challenge them, they're going to say, oh, but I'm actually a trans man. I'm a woman who is LARPing as a man, really. That has to be the dumbest argument ever. And what it really tells us is that we've got the choice between letting men who LARP as women into our spaces, or we have to put up with men who LARP as women, who LARP as men into our spaces. That is the result of the normalization of gender ideology. And another thing, apparently we've given permission. There's an artist from around here called Daniel Lismore who said publicly, we've given permission, we've given power for gender non-conforming women, for the butch lesbians to now be challenged and told to prove their femininity. That's our fault because men do nothing without permission, right? We give them the power, we give them the permission to do everything. They do nothing without us. Oh my God, how can you be so bloody stupid? I can't even. Well, I'd like to say, why didn't anyone ask our permission when they started coming into our spaces in the first place? Why didn't they ask our permission when they started colonising womanhood? And I'd like to say to those people, we are withdrawing permission now. You've had your fun, it's over. Just get stuffed. And that's it.
Good.
I should have planned something.
Can I just say to those young women over there who don't quite understand women's rights because you're not quite grown up enough yet, so you haven't actually had anything in your life that makes you really thankful for women-only spaces, and if you have, you've forgotten because you've been too busy trying to signal to everyone that you're a really accepting woman of penises in women's spaces. So can I just say, if you've got a good argument, you are welcome to come and speak here, and everyone will give you a fair shout. I mean, I know it's a foreign concept, but we're definitely welcome to you explaining why women shouldn't have any space where it's just women. So if you've got a good argument, please come and make it, because we're all ears and breasts and wombs and...
Oh my God, I'm pooping myself.
I'm delighted. Well, I'm not delighted that you're worried, but
No.
right, nice and close, nice and
Okay.
close, nice and close.
Hi, I've never spoken before. Close. Is that close enough?
Almost kissing it.
Almost
so that,
kissing
yeah.
it, okay. I've not spoken before. I've always wanted to plan something, but now I've just been made so cross that I don't even care if I'm stammering all over the place. One of those little idiots over there, she comes strutting over saying, oh, we're a bunch of fascists, and how can we just shit... Yeah, exactly. Just shit on people like that. So I looked at her and I said, how can you shit on women like this? You should be ashamed of yourself. Oh, I do apologise for that swear word. I won't do it again. And off she marched. Nothing to say, as usual, nothing to say. But when I spoke to one of our fellow TERFs about it, she said, oh, was she one of those who thinks she's a boy? And do you know what? As soon as she said that, I thought, if she was one of those, I would have probably been able to be more forgiving of her, because I think, well, she's obviously not right. She's disturbed in some way if she really believes that she can change sex. But no, to me, she's the worst kind, an actual woman who will stand there and say that these LARPing men in dresses, you know, basically AGPs, most of them, are as much of a woman as we are, that they are real women, and she's prepared to accept that and prepared to come strutting over here to say something. Well, actually, she's not, because she's yet to take the microphone. So as I said, they're the worst kind of women, and a lot of people call them handmaidens, but I always think of them, when I think of The Handmaid's Tale, I don't think of them as being of the handmaids. I think of them as being the wives, the ones in the green uniforms, the ones that actually round the women up and pin them down so that these men can do whatever they want with them and use them. And that is what they are. They're not handmaids. They're the wives. They're the worst kind of women. They are the Serena or whoever she is in, I can't remember the name. It's been a long time since I've watched it. But anyway, sorry if it's a bit gabbly, but I'm so cross. They are the worst kind. And also, again, most of the time, there's sometimes when they say stuff and it's always personal insults, being called, you know, old, ugly, whatever they want to call you or me or anyone else. But it's when they get to the personal insults, it always makes me smile, because I know that's all you've got, isn't it? You don't have anything else, because if you sat down and thought about it, you'd realise that none of it makes any sense. And anyway, but thank you for listening. Sorry.
Thank you. Did you want to speak? I'm going to pin these on you, okay? Is that all right if I touch it here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
I'm going to do that. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
I
Nice and close.
I want to talk about what the effect on society there is when people display their fetish publicly.
You can say fetish.
Okay. I saw a Channel 4 documentary where these men were explaining that they like to do pup play, where one of them is dog walked by the other, and it showed footage of these men in a public space doing this, and they were wearing their fetish gear, and I could see in the background it was probably a residential area, and there was no one else in shot. And can you imagine that when people are displaying their fetish publicly, they are imposing this fetish onto other people. It's exhibitionism, and they are involving people who don't consent in this. And the effect that might have is that people may avoid that area. Oh, this is the place where these men do that, where, you know, those particular men do that. So they might avoid that area, especially if they have children and they don't want to expose their children to this. And so then that area probably becomes an area where people decide, this isn't really where I want to raise children or have children. And so it becomes, so probably people want to move to a better area, or they just don't, or people who can't move to a better area just stay there, and women may decide not to have children. And women are the deciders of the next generation. They decide whether they want to have children, or how many children they're going to have, and they are deciding. Increasingly, women are not having a lot of children, or they're not having enough of them, or having fewer of them. And has anyone ever thought about what are the reasons why? Some people say some reasons are to do with financial costs, but if women are losing faith in humanity or losing faith in men, that this sort of exhibitionism is allowed to go on. Is it any wonder that some women are losing faith in humanity or men? And I also found out that in Hackney there are primary schools that are closing down because there is a lack of demand. So there aren't as many. That means there aren't as many children going. There aren't as many children who need to take up a place. So they are closing those primary schools, and you've got to think to yourself. To what extent are you going to allow public fetishism? I saw a photo of police officers posing with men who were dressed as dogs, pup play. And so apparently it was okay with the police. Those police officers didn't think it was a breach of the peace, or what's it called? public indecency, and that's awful, because I really do wonder whether Hackney, I don't know, how to what extent has what I've been saying had an effect on whether women are deciding whether they want to have kids in Hackney, and whether those primary schools have closed. And, you know, as I said before, women are not never-ending exploitable resource. They're in the past, women have had to just put up with misogyny, and there wasn't much they could do. But nowadays, I think it translates into women probably losing faith in humanity and deciding not to have children. Then, because there maybe is a lack of love, and yes, we need. I think we really need to think about whether this public fetishism is okay. Like, to what extent can that really be acceptable? And to really think, like, shouldn't we be more of a pro-family society that cares about children, rather than just this public fetishism. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much for talking. So if you just tuned in, we have some lovely middle-class girls shouting trans rights are human rights. They come from a place of privilege where they don't care if women who are poor, living in residential care, can't choose female care. They don't care about those women because they're never going to be those women, so they don't care. Or maybe they've just got this crazy thing that you have when you're young, where you think you're never going to get old. But I'm telling you, girls, it comes very, very quickly. It's slow and then it's damn fast. And no matter how, and boys, well, thank you very much for that. And it doesn't matter how much you loathe us, you'll become us. You'll probably be voting Conservative by the time you're about 35, to be fair. Because you'll be in that higher income tax bracket where it matters, because mummy and daddy are going to get you a lovely little internship, which is something that poor people don't have access to. But they also don't want to have access to penises 24 hours a day, which apparently you do. So it's just really interesting. Like, we often compare this period of time to 1984, and I'm telling you, it's Brave New World so much more, because they've been fed this idea, this ideology, through these phones. And these phones and this social media and this consistent affirmation is soma. And so they've got this really pleasury, lazy information drug that goes straight to their brain and makes them feel great every time they say something online. So if they say online, trans rights are human rights, and then they get lots of likes, because that's a really popular thing to say, that tells everyone you're a great person, then they get all these little kind of serotonin hits. And they're not really having genuine serotonin hits, because they don't really seem to do much in their actual lives besides declare what their opinions are on things and maybe march for the omnicause. So I'm pleased they came here today, because they could be marching elsewhere, I guess. I'm just going to have to get my reading glasses in a minute before I do your thing. So for everyone watching at home, they were just in the park, and they were so incensed that women were exercising their right to free speech that they just got together. They're strangers, so it's good, they're making friends. And they got together and they've decided they'd start chanting in a really kind of zombified Stepford Wife, Mao, Red Army sort of thing. And they are Stepford Wives to the trans movement, and they are really enjoying themselves. So And they've all got very, you know they're wearing, if it's a plain white t-shirt, you know it's Goop. You know it's like £125 plain t-shirt, don't you? It's not like they're not shopping at Primark, because that would be exploitative, I'm sure. So they've only got handmade organic lentil woven clothes. But they are a parody, and it's a really interesting and quite a dangerous thing to witness. Because they literally don't want women to have any rights whatsoever. Because as they keep saying, trans rights are men's rights. I think that's what they're saying. Trans rights are, and they're saying it like this. Trans rights are men's rights. Trans rights are men's rights. So anyway, that's what they're saying. Who else would like to speak? And you've got to speak. Yes. Let me just give you 2 of these. Have you had your hair cut?
No, it needs cutting.
You've been here
I have been here, not for a long time, but
No. Did you have longer hair before?
Probably, yeah.
I didn't really recognise you. You carry on.
Okay, hello. Again, I haven't really prepared anything. I'm sort of speaking from various notes. I am going to speak about an organisation that I volunteer for called Nordic Model Now. Now, Nordic Model are a secular feminist grassroots organisation, and we campaign against prostitution, against pornography, and also related practices like lap dancing and surrogacy. So I've talked to people who've worked in these industries, and all of them have said, you know who the women are and who the men are in this. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So everybody in those industries knows who the women are and who the men are, and usually the women get the bum end of the deal. We receive no institutional or public funding. We're all unpaid activists, and about half of our active members have lived experience of the sex trade. One of the other areas we do work in is around young girls who are being groomed to think that sex work is real work. So as well as being a TERF, I'm also a SWERF, which is another term of abuse levelled at me, which is basically a sex worker exclusive radical feminist. Now, I don't think that really applies to me, but it rhymes with TERF. So one of the things we do work around is in schools and with children, young children, particularly young girls who are very vulnerable to being groomed into the sex industry, into prostitution, into awful things. And so, people like Lily Phillips, who appear to be making lots of money for selling their body, and these girls think that they can do that. And so I'm just going to read a bit that I wrote for something else that we did. I said the children are not okay. The Netflix series Adolescence shone a light on the online radicalisation of boys by the manosphere, while scandals around the so-called grooming gangs in the north of England have raised public anxiety about sexual exploitation of girls. But missing from much of this discussion is the role of pornography and prostitution and the normalisation of these practices in our culture. We are grooming children to believe that a girl's main role in life is to be sexy and that boys are more important than girls. So social media has amplified these trends. Girls are sold the lie that monetizing their image and sexuality is an easy and safe way to fame and fortune. Boys learn that to become a man, they must act out the brutal practices they've seen in violent misogynistic porn. And stuck in the middle, is it any wonder that so many children and young people are struggling? Now, I'm involved in a youth club in Camden where I live, and it's for very unprivileged children. They have a girls group, which really is for girls. But they had some people from Camden Council come to talk to them about grooming and how to recognise if their peers were being groomed and what to look out for. And the whole thing was focused not on the way girls are groomed and girls are exploited, but the way boys, in terms of like the county lines drug things, like, you know, drug running and that sort of thing. No one mentioned sex abuse that girls are being constantly groomed into. So that's just my personal experience. Now, I also want to give a shout out. We're having, on Wednesday evening, we're having a fundraising thing, because we want to take our stall to the trade unions conference in Brighton. We're also raising money for an organisation called Women at the Well, who work with survivors. And so if you want to put on your dancing shoes, let down your hair and come along to a party we're having on Wednesday, get a little blue leaflet from me, and there's a QR code on it where you can order tickets. So that's me. Thank you very much. Cheers. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Oh, you better take them off.
Cheers. So for the people of this beautiful little park, I want to talk about rhymes with corn. Just making sure there's no children just straight in front of me. So pornography being taught in schools. And my son had it where he came home and he said, "You'll never guess what they've said, Mum." So the whole teaching angle of pornography in schools is that everyone does it, don't be ashamed. And they might talk about unrealistic expectations, but they don't talk about the trauma that many of the women that end up going into pornography have faced as children. They don't talk about the global industry of pornography and how it's very closely linked, if not absolutely inextricably linked, to the drugs trade and human trafficking. In fact, I don't think they do much about human trafficking at all at school, and that seems about the only thing that's off limits. But there's this idea that the thing that you have to teach children about pornography in school is that everyone watches it, don't be embarrassed and ashamed. Frankly, in my house, we do say it's very shameful and you should be very embarrassed. And if I catch you doing it and you're at school, so you're 16, I'll make you watch it with me. I don't know if it worked, but it's never been an issue, let's just put it that way. So here's one of the little lessons that they have in school. This is a resource by, let me just see. So this is PP Personal Studies. And then the resource thing on the back is linked to BBC Bite Size, The Mix, Relate Relationship, Childline, Respect, Men's Advice Line, Domestic Abuse, Mankind, Refuge, and Brooke. I don't think they've produced this, but that's who they recommend if you've got any issues with what's in here. Anyway, so there's a bit called Dear Dr. Love. This is for year 10s, which is like 13, 14-year-olds. Dear Dr. Love, my partner is a famous genderqueer porn actor. I'll say that again. You didn't respond enough. You're supposed to at least grimace. Dear Dr. Love, my partner is a famous genderqueer porn actor, which is fine. It's fine. It's fine. I knew this when I met them. However, my friends are always going on about how much they fancy them. This is not where I thought that was going to go. It's making me feel uncomfortable. What can I do about this? And then what you have to do as a 13, 14-year-old in this exercise is you have to reply. You have to reply to that. You have to think of a good response to how can you stop your friends fancying your genderqueer porn actor friend. I think I just say, what can I do about this? Finish him. Finish with him. Get a new boyfriend, is my advice. So my partner spends so much time looking good for everyone else. No. I love my partner. So this is just one problem page. There's a lot of porn in this. I love my partner very much. He is a porn actor in straight porn where they don't wear condoms, but he does get regular checkup for STIs. No, that's nice though, because they're looking after, in many ways, they're looking after their girlfriend. What can I do? Again, it's a common thing, and that's that Nintendo game, Finish Them. Do you remember that? Finish Them. It's Street Fighter, I think it is, just for that cultural reference from the 90s. My partner told me she really wants to go into porn. This is a very narrow problem page. I'm just going to say, maybe pornography is a lot bigger issue amongst teenagers than we realise. So anyway, so just the upshot of it, I won't read them all because they're too silly. But in fact, every single one of these 8, so this is a whole exercise in having some problems if you're having a relationship with a porn performer or a sexy model. So that's for year 10s as a school resource, which frankly, what I think it's trying to do is it's trying to get children to think it's normal, totally normal, that this is a career path. And at the moment we have 2 very young women who I'm going to just say for the record I think are sociopaths. I don't think they're necessarily traumatized, but one of them is managed by her stepfather, make of that what you will, and mother, and the other one is managed by parents who admits to starting watching pornography habitually at age 11. And now she's making millions, quite frankly, millions from pornography. And unfortunately, the podcast Dude Bros have all had these women on as if they've got something legitimate to offer. I don't think the same podcast bros have featured women that have survived pornography and prostitution and told their story about the harrowing experiences and the fact that prostitution is the most risky occupation, if we could call it that, to be raped in this country and in fact globally. So I think we want to be really, really careful when we give support to people who assist these performers, these sociopathic performers, to try and normalise this as if, and look, they both say that they enjoy it. Now, I'm 50, been around a long time, been in a relationship with the same man for 90 years, no, since 1998. I'm going to tell you, everyone watching this, you ain't feeling a lot of physical anything if you're having sex with 10 people at the same time. It's physically impossible, and the only thing I can think is that they are genuinely sociopathic or maybe even psychopathic, and it's all about performance, but mostly about money. But I do think it needs saying, because I think people wanted to say that these women are traumatized. They're not. They might be later when they realize what they've done, but I don't think the only route into this sort of self-destructive behavior is trauma. I think sometimes it's just plain old narcissism. And I think that's what these 2 girls both suffer with. Sorry, grown women. Who else would like to speak? They're speaking. Come on. Yeah, no, you can carry on. Let me give you these and I'll move it to your height.
Yeah.
One moment.
Oh, all right.
I'm going to heighten this. And then get really close, please.
I haven't really prepared anything, but I just wanted for everyone just to close their eyes for a moment and just imagine if the Supreme Court verdict went the other way. Okay, just close your eyes and think about it.
Louder.
Okay, all right. Because I think that it would have led to a whole load of men entering our spaces, attacking us randomly on the street, which are doing anyway, but it would actually increase. It would lead to an over sense of entitlement. And therefore, I just believe that the Supreme Court victory was incredibly just great for all of us women. And I think we should relax in that, knowing that the people over there, their voices seem to be getting a bit sore, which I'm actually glad about. But I wanted to correct one mistake I think Posie made about, oh, they'll be voting Liberal or whatever. These people don't believe in voting. They're fascists. The pure and simple. I made that observation quite some time ago, that these people are actually, in fact, fascists. They don't believe in us voting. They don't believe in us even being here, exercising our own free speech. Because look at them. Man's rights are human rights. Because that's all I'm hearing. So another thing I wanted to say is, since the Supreme Court verdict, another thing which has just been niggling me slightly is that every conversation since, every online conversation seems to go on about women's toilets. Like the issue was women's toilets all along. There's women who've been raped in prison by men, who've been sent into the female estate of prison. There's a woman who has been raped on her hospital ward by a man who was believed by the nurses, by the medical staff, to be a woman. And when the police came to investigate that rape, they were sent away by the staff, by the nurses, saying that there's no woman on, there's no man on this women's ward. So it's not just about toilets. It's about the fact that these men, for the sake of conforming to a sexist stereotype, wearing lipstick, because that's what all us women do, yeah? We wear, I know you're saying you do. We wear lipstick, we wear skirts, don't we? Because that's what all women do, don't they? They wear skirts, don't they? And they wear high heels, don't they? Look, just look at me. So yeah, that's niggling me a bit. We've got to move the conversation from men coming into female toilets to what's actually been happening with this gender ideology. Because it's in our schools. It's in every public space. It's throughout. It's captured every part of civil society. So we need to fight back against it. If you've been attacked at work for misgendering, whatever that is, you've got to fight it. And now you've got the means in which to fight it as well, with the Supreme Court ruling. I was going to mention something else. Oh, Kenwood Ladies Pond. We keep vigil at Kenwood Ladies Pond weekly during the spring and the summer months. If anyone wants to join that particular vigil, you know where to find us. We're, you know where to find us on WhatsApp anyway. But there's another thing I want to say. Oh yeah. Sorry? Man's rights are human rights. Man's rights are human rights. Tarquin's rights are human rights. Cassandra's rights are human rights. Women's rights are human rights. Microphones. Oh, sorry. Try to make off with your microphone then.
Thank you. Can I have the other one? Cheers. Can I just say, I'm a little bit offended they haven't heard the many rhymes that people say when I'm normally talking somewhere. I feel a little bit offended because they don't know who's on my side. do they? They don't know who's on my side or whether or not I can hide. So I would teach it to them myself, because my ego is saying, like, at least one rhyme with my name in it, but apparently that's not going to happen for me today. So anyway, so what do we have? We had a group of mostly middle-aged women, some men here, talking about women's rights and the recognition of the rights of our mothers and our daughters to be able to use a female-only space, and there'll only be women and girls in there. And then you have a group of young women who are on their gap year, who have come to the park. We're saying we'd like to speak, and they're saying, no, you don't have the right to speak. And some of them are going to do their gap year over in Iran, where they're doing a special morality police course. And if they can drive, I've heard that they can actually steer the white vans that bundle the women in before they get tried for showing their hair in public. So there's many flights to Iran if you'd like to go there. Oh, and also in Iran you can get free sex reassignment operations because they're deeply homophobic. And so rather than get thrown off a building, you can have your genitals removed and you can then have a gay relationship. So that's the sort of place that those girls, champion, because they are with the Muslim Brotherhood in their hatred of women actually having an opinion and speaking in public. So that's nice, isn't it? You often find those women at Speaker's Corner. No, you don't, do you? Because that would be a free speech place. Maybe they'll come and shout at us the next time we're there. So just to get everyone, just to remind you at home, we came to this beautiful park. There's quite a lot of families in it, so we've been really careful with our swearing. And then there were some middle-class girls, young women, who were so cross. They were so cross that we dared to say a woman is an adult human female and deserves rights, sex-based rights, and we would like to talk about those rights. They were so cross that they stood up with their arms folded. And, I mean, not much charisma, I'm not going to lie. I mean, there's no one's coming in the park and going, oh, look at those exciting women. I'd like to join them. But they're standing there with their arms folded because they're very, very cross. And they want everyone to know that they believe in the rights of men to use all women's spaces and bodies whenever they damn well please. So, and they haven't, I mean, there's no peak, is there? It's just started in a monotone, it's continued in a monotone. I think it will peter out eventually. I don't think they're going to do anything. I'm not getting any sense of excitement. I don't think loose cannon doesn't spring to mind. In fact, conformist, same old, gap year people is what I'm thinking. They remind me of, I don't know. Do you think they were ever in Suits? That's a very niche reference to the royals, the Windsors. It's a very niche reference, but if you've seen it, it's a very good, funny reference. And if you haven't seen it, then you should watch it because it's very funny. Okay, so we're called Let Women Speak. The events I do, and we do, with the help of lovely Mary and Iris and Laura. I'm just going to do an impression for the people at home. Trans rights are human rights. Trans rights are human rights. Trans rights are human rights. Oh, what are we doing? Well, we just want those middle-aged old women to shut up. How are we going to do that? Well, we're just going to keep going. Trans rights are human rights. Yeah, but what does that mean? It means we want men to go in all women's spaces. Come on. Sorry, what? It means trans rights are human. What? What does it mean? It means we want men to be in trans rights. It means we want what? We want men in women's spaces. We want little girls not to be able to go to their toilet at school because they're too frightened because there might be a boy in the next cubicle. Trans rights are... is that really what we're saying? Yes, that's really what we're saying. We want women, you know women when they go to prison for like a TV license, fine or something and they haven't paid it, we want them to share a wing and a shower with a man who's in there for crimes against women. Is that what we're saying? Oh, trans rights are human rights. Trans rights, we're honestly saying that. Yes, trans rights, say it. I don't know if I believe it. Say it. Trans rights are human rights. So I'm literally saying that girls and women have no rights. Yes, trans rights are human rights. Trans rights are, I just don't know if I can believe it. We will ostracize you. You will literally have no friends. Trans rights are human rights. I believe it. I can't have a mind of my own because I'm just young and I'm really stupid and I'm on an internship at a really big company and I've got no threat of ever being unemployed because my parents are so wealthy and nothing's ever really impacted me because I'm so privileged. That's basically what they're saying. Am I right? They can't leave now either. If they've come with friends and they've just started it, no matter what they hear, and let's face it, they're not listening, because the fear of hearing something that will make them question it, they can't question it because their ideology is really fragile. So there's not a point at which I could say, what about a Muslim woman who is one of the few Muslim women who wears a hijab and actually has a job working at the council, and she wants to be able to go and remove her hijab because it's ever so hot in those offices. They haven't bothered switching on the air conditioning. She's going through the menopause. She's proper hot flush. The hijab is so itchy by this point. And she goes, you know what, I'm going to go and take it off at lunchtime, just give myself a little bit of a breather. And she goes in that space, but she can't guarantee it's a women-only space anymore because there might be a man in there. And so therefore that woman, she just has to suffer it. In fact, she's so debilitated by the heat, the lack of air conditioning and never being able to remove her hijab for like 8 hours a day that she just gives up work. Or the woman who's, for the first time in her life, she's got a little bit of money. She can go and spend it on herself. Her children are not quite old enough to have grandchildren yet. And so she's got that little bit of disposable income and her husband is still working. She's like, you know what? Just one night a week, I'm feeling a bit unfit. I'm going to go to Aquafit. And she's like, I'm going to go to Aquafit and it's women only. I feel a bit dodgy about getting my legs out and my flabby arms in front of perfect strangers, but it's fine. It's just women only. I'm going to go to the women only swim club. It's going to be great. She goes in that communal changing room and the first thing she sees is a male appendage. And then she says to the women in there, oh my God, have you seen? And they all go, yeah, isn't it terrible? Oh, isn't it terrible? She goes, I'm going to go and complain. Are you coming with me? Oh, no. No, I'm not going to come with you. No, I can't risk that. I don't want to look like I'm mean. And so she says, well, I just won't go anymore. And so she stops going. And actually, that was her last little bit of mental health kind of fitness that she could do on a weekly basis. And she can't go anymore. But that's fine because, you know, trans rights are human rights. That's fine. Well, she should stay at home. What a bigoted woman for not wanting to go and share that private female space with a man. Because, you know, trans rights are human rights. That's what these women think. And they're all old enough or young enough. Maybe they're too posh. Maybe their grandparents are too old. But each one of them will have a grandparent at the very least. A woman who maybe has to go in a hospital who doesn't want to share the ward with a man. Her female-only ward. But Granny's a bigot, right? Granny did vote Brexit, so who cares what Granny thinks about everything or anything anymore? Anyway, who else would like to speak? Yes! Can you speak nice and close to that? I'm going to give you microphones. That's quite all right.
Completely unplanned.
That's good. They're the best speeches. Real loud.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I think that something has been overlooked here, which is the remarkable intellectual complexity and creativity of the arguments that are coming from our friends over there. Quite extraordinary. When the Supreme Court ruling came out, Jeremy Corbyn put something out which I've not been able to find,
which was basically misogynistic and saying how awful it was for the trans community, the vociferousness and the vitriolic arguments against them. I responded to this and said that I was ashamed for him. I was ashamed that I had ever regarded him as someone that I could possibly admire, and that did he not think that women's rights should play a place in all this. To this, I got the most extraordinary level of intellectual, complex arguments, creative speeches aimed at me. One of the best, the most cogent and the most relevant was, I make pots, and there are some pictures of my pots online, was to say that my pots were pedestrian and poorly executed. So now we know where we are in this war.
Thank you. Where can we buy your pots?
Ask Maria.
Okay, so I'll be sharing where we can buy those pots so we can make this woman some money. That would be nice. That would be a great outcome, wouldn't it? I just want to tell any young girls or women watching or listening for a second, you are entitled to a female-only space. At school, you're entitled to a female-only space. That means when you get changed and when you go to the loo, so if your school has got a nice big gender-neutral space where you would basically open a cubicle and you're out in the corridor, that's unlawful, and you can complain to your school. If your friends are trying to tell you it's unkind to pretend that little Tommy who's come back as Jane is actually not a girl, if it's not kind to say that he's still a boy, I want you just to understand that you're right. And don't let your friends gaslight you or make you intimidated into agreeing with them when you know it's not true. Look after your own sanity, girls. For parents watching, I'm just going to remind everyone about toilet provision in schools, because I think it's, like, some people say it's not just about toilets, it's not. But a toilet is the most public kind of facility we use where we're in a state of undress. It's the place that we are most likely to frequent when we're out and about. So when it comes to toilets in schools, let me say that a single-sex provision is when the door closes and the sinks and the drying and the toilets are inside. And if it's a fully enclosed cubicle, it has to be enclosed with a sink and somewhere to dry your hands. So that's the only place in which they can say mixed sex, because then you don't have to be in any position of vulnerability to actually be able to go to the toilet, wash and dry your hands. And then when it comes to changing facilities, now this is unlawful if they have any facilities that are not compliant. So single sex, which means single sex, just one sex in them, or a fully lockable, enclosed facility with a toilet, a sink, and a place to dry your hands. And to the very lovely police officers that are here today, thank you very much. Your station, if you get changed at your station, ladies, you should have a female-only changing space and a female-only toilet where men are not permitted to go. So we know that that's happening in fire stations, in police stations, in NHS facilities, right across the country. But that is the law. If you're 8 and over, public and work directives mean that you should have access to single-sex spaces. And the reason we talk about toilets is because, quite frankly, if it's like dark and you're in a public place and you want to go to the loo, you feel very vulnerable once that door closes and then you go in a toilet. Anyone can come in, and the majority of women watching will totally feel when the person that comes in, whether they can see them or not, is male. It's the same as when men are following us or a woman is following us. We can tell who they are without looking. We just know that if it's a man behind us. And these girls over here, they might be shouting silly things at us like trans rights and human rights. But they damn well know that if they were in a space on their own, they're sat on a train and they're sat at a table of 4 and the person that comes and sits on that table is male, I'm telling you they know the difference between a woman and a man who calls himself a woman, 100%. And do you know what they'll do? This is the sad thing, that what they'll do is they'll rationalise their fear. And they'll tell themselves that they're wrong for being afraid of him, that are they secret transphobes after all? And are they being really unkind because he hasn't done anything? He's just sat in the only place that he didn't really need to sit, on a train carriage, but he is also a woman. So they're being unfair. And I'm telling you, that's the conversation they have with themselves. Whether they're honest enough to admit it, I don't know. But we recently had a girl who was over in, from the States, and she'd left university after being ostracized because she had shared a single-sex dormitory with an AGP who she kept telling herself all the time when he was doing overtly inappropriate conversations with her, talking about their body parts and comparing, and basically sexually harassing her on a daily basis. And she was telling herself that she must be transphobic because she was feeling very uncomfortable. And when she eventually admitted it to herself and talked to some females about it, she got completely ostracized by her group, despite the fact that she had been a victim of this ongoing sexual harassment in a very confined space. So that's what these girls risk to lose. But what they also risk to lose is having absolutely no respect for themselves and no self-esteem whatsoever, when they realise eventually that one day in 2025 they saw a group of women talking about women's rights, and they stood in a public place with their faces on display, and they shouted about men's rights to a group of women who are trying to make sure that the very few female rights that we have in this country is extended to them for as long as humanly possible. Can you imagine the embarrassment? I mean, Jesus. Anyway, who else would like to speak? Or forever hold your peas? No? Should we round it? You, come on. You about my size? Yes. Right, I'm going to pin these on you, if that's all right. And speak quite closely to that microphone so that everyone can hear you through the microphone.
Thanks. Hi, I don't really want to speak because I don't like public speaking. But I want to just point out that this isn't only about women's rights, it's also about gay rights. And I would really love to have a conversation, a civil debate with the young people over there. If they'd like to step forward, maybe we can do that. But this isn't really that kind of a movement. We know that this is more about bullying and shouting, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, like I've been taught to say, rather than a civil, intelligent debate. Now, I do have a little bit of skin in this game because as a child, I was gender nonconforming to the extreme. And I called myself a boy. I told my parents I was a boy. I dressed like a boy. Played American football with boys, and on and on. And then I came to find out that there was a kind of pathological medical term for my gender nonconformity, because God forbid a girl didn't, behave as she's supposed to behave according to very conventional, very conservative standards of what is feminine. So I medicalized myself, like I'd been taught to do. But as I kind of grew older and read more books and thought more carefully about my experiences and became brave enough to come out of the closet as a lesbian, which is what I am and always was, I realized I do not need to be a man to be with a woman. I do not need to be a man to play football or active sports. I don't need to be a man to dress the way I want to dress or wear my hair short or to indeed speak in public or have some level of authority or intelligence. or hold office. None of these things have to be masculine things to do. So not only is this about sexism, it's about homophobia. And if these young people would like to maybe give this some thought, they might realize that what they're doing is aiding and abetting a movement that likes to basically transition gay children so that they can become nice, heterosexual, heteronormative members of the opposite sex. Now, you're always saying, let people be what they are. And I was lucky enough to grow up in the 70s when little girls could be what they are. They could kind of be gender nonconforming tomboys. But that wouldn't happen today. No, what would happen is, had I been born in the sort of early 2000s or mid 2010s or whatever, all those non-normative behaviors that I engaged in would have qualified me with my own consent and even probably voluntary support into transitioning. So what would I be now? Not a feminist, not a woman, at least in the public eye, in my appearance. I would have a lot of privilege. Women would laugh at my jokes. I'd probably have higher pay. Instead, I'm a lesbian, I'm a feminist, and I was able to grow up with the body that I was born with and find out that actually I can have sex with this body and it can be fun and it can be okay. I would never have found that out had I transitioned and had some kind of manipulation done to my body, mutilation done to my body as a child. So I think that's what this movement is really about, is making sure that gay and lesbian children don't grow up to be happy gay and lesbian men and women, but instead become nice, conforming members of heteronormative, conventional, conservative society. And that's what you people are. You're conservatives. Yeah. Bye. Thank you. Stealing your mic.
Everything you
Sorry.
say still. It's all right. Can I have the other one? There's two. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. Oh, yes, you can. Yes, of course you can. I'd love you to
I'm
speak.
really nervous, and I'm sure there's loads of my colleagues from where I work over there. Possibly, but I'm going to do it.
Oh my God!
Don't,
well done.
Don't publicise it.
Right, because you're talking, because you're tall and normal.
Okay.
Can you talk quite close into that microphone so everyone can hear you?
Hi. I hadn't planned to speak either, but what I'm going to say is just going to follow on very well from what the previous person said. But also what I want to say is something kind of like a news item, because Kelly talked about doing deputations to your councils. And myself, and there's a growing group of people in Hackney and Islington who are actually doing that. We recently went to a health scrutiny panel at Walthamstow Town Hall, which covers the whole of this area, because we're asking them to tell the public how they're implementing the results of the CAS report within our local authority. So, of course, they've messed us about a bit, but we've prevailed, and we went to a meeting last week, which was really successful. We were insulted by one of the councillors, calling us disgusting, because we supported the Supreme Court decision. We never mentioned that in our presentation anyway. We were given a statement to read out at that meeting by a parent whose child was looked after in quotation marks by the NHS. And I'm going to read it out today because I think it was this statement that made a really big impression on the councillors at the meeting that we were at. And it follows on from what the previous person just spoke about. This was written by a parent who lives locally. When my daughter was 13, she learned at school that she might have been born in the wrong body, and that the way to fix this was to fix herself. She asked to be referred to GIDS so she could get help from the NHS. I mean, I just want to say, I know lots of people have heard loads of stories like this anyway, but some people may not have done, so I do want to say it. Looking at the website, this is the parent. My impression was that children receive neutral counselling to help them come to accept their healthy bodies. It didn't occur to me that professionals would ever consider it ethical to set their patients on a pathway towards experimental drugs and surgery, or that school would promote these as sensible lifestyle choices. Our GP was happy to refer, and the appointment was fairly quick. Questions about names, pronouns, haircuts and clothes. Nothing about mental health or the series of phantom issues that would have been in her record. In a subsequent one-to-one conversation, the GP told me there was no evidence to support gender treatments for children. So when I asked why then had this referral been made, the GP responded that colleagues who hadn't exactly followed their patients' wishes had been reported to their medical association. This was the first major shock of our gender journey. I learned that it was impossible to remove my daughter from the waiting list without her consent, that doctors from now on would refer to her as a boy with a new name, that the known dangers of breast binders would be dismissed, that she would be urged to attend appointments without me, and that no one would help me get her assessed for autism, lest it be perceived as transphobic. NHS England continued to update her on when she was on the waiting list, always with the envelopes marked strictly private and confidential, and asking whether she wanted to be seen secretly by video. I began to pay privately for doctor's appointments to keep her out of the NHS and ensure she received care, treatments and blood tests designed for females. Those professionals didn't have access to her records, so didn't know about the gender identity. Jump forward some years, my daughter has desisted. This is despite the best efforts of the NHS to fast track her towards treatments she very likely would have come to regret. It is despite society telling her that as a mother, protecting her from harm was in fact abuse and hate crime. Other families have not been so lucky. Their children are now taking cross-sex hormones and some have become estranged. It's hard to think that those in charge of their care have followed standard patient safeguarding, considered what the long-term impact will be, or done no harm. So that's from a parent who shared this with us. And if anyone's interested in knowing about the group locally who are doing these deputations, going to the health boards, come and speak to myself or my friends who I'm with, and we'll quite happily add you to our group. Okay, thanks so much. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. They're flagging, aren't they? They're getting bored because they've only got one slogan, so. I feel like going and giving them some others, just to keep their spirits up. It's difficult being a fascist, trying to stop women from speaking, but just more slogans, ladies. Just put put some effort in to your authoritarian, totalitarian silencing of middle-aged women. Just a little bit more. I mean, this is why women don't get anywhere, because they're just not willing. They're not organised. They've got no charisma. There's barely any enthusiasm. They've got no sense of humour. These young women are more likely to get irate about a man spreading on the tube, than a man getting naked in a women's changing room, basically. Oh, have you just defected? I'm joking. What sign have you brought, Julia? Let's have a look. When fiction meets fetish, hand me a pitchfork. I don't care what you say. No, I don't care if women say no, you will undress in front of me. Oh, he's like a rose between two piles of excrement, isn't he? That's what we say. But anyway, there's nothing wrong with a balding man with a mullet wanting to go in a nurse's changing room. Bigots. So anyway, one thing that I've decided to do is try and find, what I like to do as an activist and campaigner is to find the something that's going to change this quickly, because I don't know about you, but for women, Scott started a case 5 or 6 years ago to get someone to admit that we knew something that we knew all along, and it took 5 years, and it's only going to have an impact on equality law, which I grant you is wide, but there's going to be a lot of people that are going to just kind of pretend that they're doing something else, and when you complain, it'll take forever. And as I did a live stream about it the other day, about you will go to a charity. So let's say there's a charity. Let's say they've got some things that go into school. Let's call them Jigsaw or No Outsiders. And what No Outsiders do is they go into school and they say this stupid thing like those silly girls say, which is that trans women are women. And then what that follows is if a man can be a woman, that a man can be a lesbian, which goes against the aims of those charitable organisations. So then what you'll find is someone like All Sorts, Gendered Intelligence and so on, their purpose, which is that we know it's a lie because their purpose really is just about the tea. But they say their purpose is about lesbian and gay rights and trans rights. So lesbian is one of their purposes, is to protect lesbians. Well, one thing you can't do if you claim to protect lesbians is pretend that men can be lesbians. So obviously, all we have to do is write to the Charities Commission, and with their power as an NGO, they'll come in and they'll shut the charity down, right? Except, literally a fly. It's a blade of grass, identified as a fly, just a blade of grass. But what they will do, oh, that was so gross. But what they will do is they'll shut it down, right? But we know that they won't. So eventually, and I'm glad that old Fox Killer is taking to task the EHRC, because I'd like to do that, because I think they've failed in their duty of care to women for the last 15 years, actually. So I wouldn't mind a judicial review against the Equality and Human Rights Act, Equality and Human Rights Commission, to ask them, where the freaking hell were you? How, like, I mean, we often say that certain things don't have testicles, but they really just don't seem to have ovaries either. They don't seem to be able to identify what anyone is. And that is the point of them. So I'd like to see them sued, but for a completely different reason. So anyway, so the Charities Commission, I think that needs looking into. And I wrote an open letter to the Charities Commission to highlight all the breaches of the charitable aims, which basically, why are they a charity? So they can have some free money and they don't pay tax. So maybe HMRC would like to look into a charity that actually doesn't fulfill its charitable aim, because maybe at the end of the day, money is the only thing that anyone actually really cares about. And sometimes ideology will swallow even that legitimate aim of a business or organisation. But that's what I think we need to do. We need to go on the offence. I'm sick and tired of us pivoting to that nonsense. And I think we need to go on the offence and on the attack. And I think we need to start making it financially crippling for any organisation not to stick to the Equality Act and give women our fundamental human rights to our single-sex spaces. I want to thank the antiperspirant deodorant that's working overtime with all the police in so many layers. I don't know how you do it, lads and ladies, but I admire your resolve to be standing out in the sun. And to those that have the trans rights and human rights in their ears, I hope that doesn't become an earworm that you can't get rid of. But we hear it everywhere we go, and quite frankly, it's as boring as it is ridiculous. So that's me. So this is Let Women Speak. What we do is we facilitate women's voices in the public square. And what those little silly girls do is they try and stop women talking. They try and make it difficult for women to speak. And what they also do is they make it difficult for other people to listen to women's voices, which is ultimately their kind of little Mao Red Army, authoritarian morality police efforts. But there are flights to Iran on a daily basis, and I'm sure your gap year money will help facilitate a really lovely time in Tehran, or maybe Pakistan. Maybe you could go out with some of the morality police that are now operating against Hindus in India. There's plenty of places you can go if that's your sort of thing, girls, and you can also do it while saying that you're on a gap year. So good luck to you. Okay, if you can speak, even though some very boring individuals will come out and shout at you when you do, then I promise we will win. If you can remember that they're actually old enough to vote, and they probably don't, but they are old enough to do so, then I promise we will win. And do you know why else we're going to win? Well, because I never lose. Well done, everyone. Ladies, the microphone was always open to you. You could always come and give an argument. We know you don't have one, but you are always welcome to open dialogue, and it won't kill you, unlike the men in your space. I'm just going to go right over. Is this Twitter? Should we go over?
I'll still be here tomorrow morning.
Did you want to say anything? Did you want to speak on camera? You don't? Did you want to speak on camera? I mean, you're happy to shout at women. Did you want to speak? No? You don't want to speak? You don't want an open dialogue? You don't want a dialogue? You don't want to say why you want men and women's spaces? No? Do you want to talk about it? Trans rights are human rights. You just want to shout about it? You don't want to talk? No? Okay. I'm coming back. Okay, everyone.
I admire what you do.
Oh, thank you so much.
I came from the States just to see this. Well, this is my last day here, but I'm glad I got to see this.
Well, thank you for coming. I'm going to turn Twitter off now. Oh, did I get her, or was I pointing? What was I pointing at her? Oh, damn it. There. All right, okay, good.